We cannot allow federal agency, one that was created for the purpose to terrorize, to function as an occupying force in our community. Real accountability starts with abolishing ICE, impeaching Kristi Noem, and rethinking how we enforce immigration policy in this country.
Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
No.
Of course not. Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Agency, one that was created for the purpose to terrorize, to function as an occupying force in our community. Real accountability starts with abolishing ICE, impeaching Kristi Noem, and rethinking how we enforce immigration policy in this country. And we cannot stop there. We must demand that those who are responsible for terrorizing our community are investigated thoroughly, not by the agencies that oversee them, by truly independent authorities. We have seen federal agencies block state investigation, stonewall accountability. This is unacceptable. Our system of justice cannot tolerate a situation where people are killed and only response is silence, spin, or justification from the administration's officials. Minnesota was once known as a place of refuge. Now it has been turned into a war zone by a federal government that has lost sight of the values that make America great. Everything we love, our communities, our rights, our Constitution, our humanity is on the line right now. We have to fight like our future depends on it, because it does.
Is there anything you'd like to respond to what you've heard today?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Acting Chairman Jay Paul and your comment about the Trump administration moving money around for more detention beds. I'd like to remind you, under the Obama administration, we did that most of the years he was president. We moved money around DHS. It's called reprogramming. We did that under the Obama administration. I don't remember any hearings on that. And also, I'd like to remind you that under the Obama administration, I mean, you're quick to point out that the cages were built under the Obama administration. I was there. Family detention, we had 100 family beds under the Obama administration. We built 3,000 more. So when there was a surge in FY14 and FY15 on the border, Congress was quick to give all the money we needed to build detention facilities, get transportation contracts. We reprogrammed money out of the majority of the years he was president. That was fine. Under Obama administration, FY12, we removed 409,000 people, half of what was removed last year. There was no hearings on that. So this is about transparency. Let's be factual about it.
The time of the gentleman has expired. Since you did address some comments at me, I'll just say that I didn't like it under the Obama administration either. In fact,
well, be honest with the American people. You can't point out faults in the Trump administration when it happened under the Obama administration. That's dishonesty. It's pathetic and it's sad.
Mr. Homan, I control the time, and I am the chairwoman of the committee. Thank you for respecting that. I didn't like it under the Obama administration, and I'll remind you, Mr. Homan, that you also testified before Congress in support of the Obama's Priorities Enforcement Program before the Senate Judiciary Committee on May 19th, 2016, which had a very different approach.
Well, can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
No.
Of course not.
I want to give you some time, but I do want to ask one quick question, and I want to make one quick statement. I find it very offensive that anybody would compare any federal employee, frankly, to someone who, the Gestapo or running Nazi concentration camps. That is very offensive. I have 15 seconds and I yield it to you.
Thank you for saying that. I wish somebody in Democratic leadership would say that out loud. Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority. The
I
gentlewoman,
respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for
excuse
me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer.
There are political debates. And then there are moments that expose just how far apart two sides of the country have drifted. During a heated session in the House Judiciary Committee, Ilhan Omar made a statement that stunned many watching. She described federal immigration agents as a force created to terrorize communities and argued that real accountability begins with abolishing Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. In her words, ICE was acting like an occupying force in American communities. That kind of language is not just political rhetoric. It frames federal law enforcement as enemies of the people, a framing that carries serious consequences in a country already deeply divided over immigration. But what happened next turned the hearing from a political speech into a direct confrontation. Former acting ICE Director Tom Homan responded, and he didn't raise his voice, didn't attack personally, and didn't rely on slogans. Instead, he did something far more effective. He brought up facts that many in the room seemed eager to ignore. Homan reminded lawmakers that detention facilities, family detention expansion, and large-scale deportations were not inventions of one administration. They were policies carried out under multiple presidents, including Barack Obama. He pointed out that in fiscal year 2012 alone, more than 409,000 people were removed from the United States, a number that dwarfed many of the figures now being used to criticize current enforcement. His argument was simple. If these policies were acceptable when implemented by previous administrations, then selectively condemning them now is not principled, it is political. And then came the most viral moment of the exchange. When pressed about overcrowded detention and illegal entries, Homan turned directly toward the committee and said, "If you want to know why we have these issues, you need to look in the mirror." It was a direct accusation, not at immigrants, not at agents on the ground, but at lawmakers themselves. He argued that Congress had failed to close legal loopholes and had failed to secure the border, creating the very crisis they were now condemning. That moment captured the core of America's immigration debate in a single sentence. On one side, lawmakers like Omar frame enforcement as cruelty and overreach. On the other, officials like Homan argue that weak enforcement and political hesitation invite chaos and put both migrants and citizens at risk. The clash wasn't just about policy. It was about language, accountability, and the legitimacy of federal authority itself. Calling ICE agents terrorists is not just criticism. It is a moral judgment that delegitimizes the rule of law. And for many Americans, hearing that comparison, especially to historical secret police, crossed a line that should never be crossed in a democratic society. Homan's response resonated because it reframed the debate. Instead of focusing on emotion and symbolism, he focused on process, law, and responsibility. His message was that immigration policy is not determined by agents in the field. It is written by the very lawmakers who are now condemning the outcomes. By the end of the exchange, what started as a condemnation of ICE had turned into a broader question. Who is actually responsible for the state of America's borders? And in a moment that perfectly symbolized Washington's dysfunction, Homan was eventually cut off, not because his facts were disproven, but because his time had expired. Two narratives, two definitions of justice, and one debate that continues to shape the future of U.S. immigration policy.